Title: Sister Wives Shocker. Mykelti Padron finally reveals the truth about each mom, and it's more complicated than fans ever knew. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story dives deep into one of the most talked about daughters in the Sister Wives universe, and trust me, this one is layered, emotional, and honestly a little shocking. We're talking about Mykelti Padron, the outspoken, often misunderstood daughter who's never been afraid to speak her truth. And now, she's opening up like never before about where she actually stood with each of her moms growing up. And let's just say, it's not the picture many fans had in their heads. So grab your tea, because this isn't just family dynamics. This is a full-on emotional breakdown of life inside one of reality TV's most complicated households. The reality behind the big happy family image. For years, Sister Wives painted a picture of unity, a large, unconventional family built on love, cooperation, and shared values. But if you've been watching closely, you already know things were never quite that simple. And now, Mykelti is confirming what many fans suspected all along. Growing up in a plural family came with emotional complexities that couldn't always be smoothed over with smiles and family meetings. In her recent reflections, Mykelti didn't hold back. She described her childhood as dynamic, confusing, and at times emotionally isolating. And the biggest revelation? Her relationships with each of her moms were completely different and constantly shifting. Christine, the safe space, but not without tension. Let's start with her biological mom, Christine. Mykelti has always been vocal about her deep love for Christine, and she still is. She describes her as warm, nurturing, and the emotional backbone of her childhood. But here's where things get interesting. Even with that strong bond, Mykelti admitted there were moments of tension, especially as she started developing her own identity. She wasn't always the easy child. In fact, she described herself as independent, opinionated, and sometimes rebellious. And while Christine loved her fiercely, that didn't mean they always saw eye to eye. There were times Mykelti felt misunderstood. Times she felt like she didn't quite fit the mold of what was expected in the family. And that created distance, temporary but real. Still, she made one thing clear. Christine was always her emotional home base. Janelle, respect over emotional closeness. Now, let's talk about Janelle. According to Mykelti, her relationship with Janelle was respectful, but not deeply emotional. She described Janelle as practical, logical, and somewhat reserved. Not the type to engage in deep emotional bonding, at least not in the way Mykelti needed growing up. And because of that, their connection felt more distant. It wasn't cold. It wasn't negative. It just wasn't close. Mykelti admitted that as a child, she sometimes struggled to understand Janelle's more detached parenting style. She craved emotional reassurance, and Janelle simply expressed love in different ways. Looking back, though, Mykelti says she has a better appreciation for Janelle now. As an adult, she recognizes the strength it took to hold everything together behind the scenes. But as a kid, that connection just wasn't there in the same way. Mary, complicated, emotional, and often misunderstood. Now here's where things get really layered. Mary. Mykelti described her relationship with Mary as one of the most complicated in the entire family. There were moments of closeness, but also moments of confusion, tension, and emotional distance. She hinted at feeling unsure around Mary at times, not necessarily because of anything specific, but because the emotional energy felt unpredictable. One minute things were fine, the next they weren't. And for a child trying to navigate multiple maternal relationships, that inconsistency was difficult. Mykelti didn't place blame, but she didn't sugarcoat the impact either. She said there were times she didn't know where she stood with Mary, and that uncertainty made it hard to fully connect. Still, she acknowledged that Mary had her own struggles, and that those struggles inevitably affected the entire family dynamic. Robin, the unexpected bond that sparked controversy. Now let's talk about the relationship that has sparked the most debate among fans, Robin. Because here's the twist no one saw coming. Mykelti says she actually felt one of her strongest connections with Robin growing up. Yes, you heard that right. While many fans have criticized Robin's role in the family, Mykelti had a completely different experience. She described Robin as emotionally available, attentive, and deeply invested in building relationships with the kids. In fact, Mykelti even spent time living with Robin at one point, a decision that raised eyebrows then and continues to spark conversations now. According to Mykelti, Robin made her feel seen and heard in a way she sometimes struggled to find elsewhere. But of course, this is where things get complicated, because that closeness didn't exist in a vacuum. It happened within a family already dealing with shifting dynamics, jealousy, and emotional fractures. And while Mykelti's bond with Robin was genuine, it also added another layer of tension to an already delicate situation. Living between worlds, the emotional tug-of-war. What really stands out in Mykelti's story is the emotional balancing act she had to perform as a child. Imagine having 4 mother figures, each with different personalities, parenting styles, and emotional expectations. Now, imagine trying to figure out where you belong within all of that. Mykelti described feeling like she had to adapt constantly. Different house, different rules, different mom, different emotional language. It wasn't just about love. It was about navigating relationships that didn't always align. And that created a sense of emotional fragmentation. She wasn't just one version of herself. She was multiple versions depending on where she was and who she was with. The identity struggle, finding herself in a plural family. As Mykelti got older, those dynamics started to shape her identity in profound ways. She talked about feeling like she didn't fully belong in anyone's space. Not because she wasn't loved, but because the structure itself made it difficult to feel rooted. And that led to moments of insecurity, self-doubt, and confusion. Who is she really? Which version of herself was the real one? It's something many children in blended or complex families can relate to, but in a plural family, those feelings can be amplified. Why fans are so divided over her story. Now, if you've been in the fandom for a while, you already know Mykelti is a polarizing figure. Some fans admire her honesty. Others feel she's too outspoken, or that she defends certain family members more than she should. And her comments about Robin? Yeah, those definitely stirred the pot. But here's the thing. Mykelti isn't telling the story fans expected. She's telling her story. And that story doesn't neatly align with the narratives people have built around the family. It challenges assumptions. It complicates loyalties. And that's exactly why it's so powerful. Where things stand now. So, where does Mykelti stand with each of her moms today? According to her, things have evolved. Her relationship with Christine remains strong, arguably stronger than ever. With Janelle, there's mutual respect and a growing understanding. With Mary, things are still complicated, but there's more perspective now than there was in the past. And with Robin, the bond is still there, though it exists within a family dynamic that has changed dramatically in recent years. Because let's not forget, the Sister Wives family has gone through major shifts. Divorces, separations, and emotional reckonings have reshaped everything. And Mykelti, like everyone else, is still navigating what that means. The bigger picture. What this says about plural family life. At the end of the day, Mykelti's story isn't just about one family. It's about the realities of growing up in a complex, unconventional household. It's about how love can exist alongside tension, how connection can coexist with confusion, and how children often carry the emotional weight of dynamics they didn't create. Her honesty pulls back the curtain on what plural family life can really look like, not the idealized version, but the lived experience. And whether you agree with her perspective or not, one thing is clear. It adds depth to a story that's far from simple. Final thoughts. A story still being written. As Mykelti continues to share her journey, one thing is certain. This story isn't over. Relationships are still evolving. Emotions are still unfolding. And fans? We're still watching, still debating, still trying to make sense of it all. But maybe the takeaway isn't about choosing sides. Maybe it's about understanding that in a family this complex, there are no easy answers, only perspectives. And Mykelti just gave us one of the most honest, raw, and eye-opening perspectives we've seen yet. Alright guys, that's it for today's deep dive. What do you think about Mykelti's revelations? Were you surprised by her bond with Robin? Or Does it change how you see the entire family dynamic? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss the latest